Hi, we're back for episode 3 of Carol being a caregiver. In the last episode, I was talking about things that I did that worked, things that I did that didn't work, and it's a process of learning what will work and what won't work. One thing that I did that seemed to work because Mother loved animals was involve her with my animals. We had a cat at that time who adored her, and the cat would sit in her lap and just be all around her, and she loved him, which we were really lucky to that worked out. She also loved Brinkley, our dog, and he was always so he's a German Shepherd Husky mix, and so he's kind of large, but when he was around her, he was always real still and calm and gentle. She's a gentle dog anyway, so but it just, there seemed to be a special connection there. I also raised chickens, and so I would take Mother to the chicken run, and we would sit inside the chicken run and feed the chickens sunflower seeds, and she'd hold some of them, and she just thought they were the cutest little things. She loved my baby chickens when I would get baby chickens in the spring. She was a farm girl, so she liked animals. As much as you can, interact with family. Mother had a first cousin who was about her age, who lived in West Tennessee, and every time we went to West Tennessee, we'd go to visit her. Sometimes we'd go to visit her. That was the purpose for going to West Tennessee, was to visit her cousin. And sometimes you may find that you have interactions with family, and your loved one doesn't know them, and that's okay. One weekend we were at Mother's home, and one of our cousins who lives in Jackson, Mother's nephew, was coming to visit, and Mother was very confused, and I knew that she probably wasn't going to know who they were. So I met them on the front porch, and I said, Mother's probably not going to know you. Just want to warn you. And they said, that's fine. So they came in. We had a meal together. At one point, Mother looked at my cousin and said, now, did you know William Clark? He was my brother. And of course, that was my cousin's father. And he just very calmly said, yes, I did know him. I sure did. And so, you just kind of go with the flow and not argue. And sometimes it was really, really hard not to argue. And when I got to that point, we'd go for a ride, like putting the baby to sleep, take him in a car. One time Mother was very agitated, and she wanted to go to her home. And at some point she decided that the house she was in, my house, was actually her grandfather's house. And if she just walked across the creek, she would be at her house. And so she began to walk out of the house to go home. And the first couple of times that she did it, of course, I was there in the house, and I saw her walk out the door, and I just walked down the driveway with her. Now, and keep in mind, this was after she'd had 2 hip surgeries, and so she was using a walker. And I have a gravel driveway, and she walked all the way down our gravel driveway. And the whole time I was talking to her and getting more and more frustrated because I didn't know how to get her to stop and turn around and come back to the house. This is a learning process, folks, and no amount of books that you read can tell you what to do in that situation. So I just kept walking with her, hoping that she wouldn't fall, and I finally convinced her to stop and let me go get the car, and we would drive there. And so I went up to the house. I left her standing in the driveway while I walked back to the house, got the car, went down to get her in the car, and then we went for a ride. And then it got dark, and I said, well, it's too late now to get to the house, why don't we just spend the night with Carl and Carol? And she said, well, I think that's a good idea. So I went back to the house and got her in the house and got her dressed for bed, and we spent the night. And there was no need for me to say, now tomorrow, because, tomorrow's maybe not going to be there, so in her mind anyway, it might not be there. So I did a lot of taking her for rides to put the baby to sleep, but she could no longer be left alone for any length of time. I put baby covers on the doorknobs, and that just frustrated her and made her so mad because she couldn't get the doors open. I had an art show in Cannon County, and so my friend who was caregiving came and sat with her that day, and Carl was also here, and she got very, very frustrated and anxious and upset, and so they brought her to me at the art show, and we sat and we had a meal. We had lunch, and she calmed down a little bit, but that was also a watershed moment. That was a turning point, and I knew that I knew that something else had to happen, and so I knew that we needed to start looking for facilities, and that was the hardest part of the whole 7 years. That was the hardest part because I felt like I was a failure. And I still have trouble with it, as you can tell. I felt like that I had not done everything that I could do because now I was putting her in a facility. So the first facility that we went to look at, I was a blubbery, snotty mess. It was a horrible day. I cried. The nurse there that I met with said, it'll be okay. Give yourself a little grace. I didn't quite know how to take that term. I've always heard of grace in a very religious aspect. Like give yourself some forgiveness. And I really didn't think I had anything to be forgiven for at that point as far as caring for my mother, maybe for other things, but not for caring for my mother. And I came to look at it as give yourself some approval. And so then I was okay with that. I also had a young friend who helped me through that process who said, there's no need for you to feel guilty. Your mother's change in geography has not made you less of a caregiver. And I was just as much caregiver. So, because after she went into the facility, I was there almost every other day. Well, I was there every other day. And sometimes 5 or 6 days a week. They don't really want you there that often. In fact, they told me, come and bring her and leave her and stay away for a couple of weeks. And I couldn't do that. And I was pretty happy with the facility. I loved all of the caregivers there, except one. They were very good to her, and I appreciated them, but they didn't have enough help, and that's not their fault. Facilities need more people. And so Mother was in that facility from the beginning of October until when she died at the end of April. While she was there, she fell and broke her shoulder, so she could no longer walk, and because she couldn't hold on to the walker. So, the broken hips and the broken shoulder, and that all goes along with it. And so how to wrap up: give yourself some grace, give yourself some approval, As a caregiver, I don't care if you do argue. I don't care if you run out of redirects. I don't care if you get frustrated and have to walk out of the room or even walk out of the house. You are doing a wonderful job. I don't care if you have to put your loved one in a facility. You are still a caregiver and you are doing a wonderful job. And you just need, you know, everybody kept telling me, all of the people who either had been through this process or who hadn't been through the process but thought they knew what to do, um, you need to take care of yourself. Well, hell, excuse my French, but that's real easy to say and really hard to do, because you can't leave to go to a caregiver support group or to go take a nap or to go for a walk if you don't have a backup to stay with your loved one while you're doing those things. And that's how you care for yourself. You take a nap, you go for a walk, you drink a glass of wine. Now, I could drink a glass of wine, but you know, you have to have outside help. So I guess the thing I want to leave most of all with you is, don't be ashamed or afraid to ask for outside help. And if it means starting with a medical professional, starting with a doctor, starting with a friend, just this week, I took chicken soup and bread and wine to a friend who is caring for her husband who is very, very ill. So, reach out to your friends. And when they ask you, what can I do to help? Be ready with an answer. Say, well, I need somebody tomorrow afternoon to sit with her while I go to the grocery store, or while I just get out for a while. Will you come and do that? And I bet they will. So don't be afraid to ask for help from friends, from family. And I'll tell you, friends are maybe more likely to help than family, depending on geography, location, whatever reason. So don't be afraid to ask. Don't also take it personally if they say, I can't. Some people just can't. Some people can't be a caregiver. They don't know how. It's too difficult for them. It's scary. So if they say no, don't take it personally. Reach out to somebody else. If you all have questions that you want me to answer, if I just touched on something and it's not enough, I'd be happy for you to send me emails or texts, and I'll help you with the information that you need. I think that somebody can probably give you my email or